There is a moment that feels deeply confusing. It is the moment you stop doing things for people. And suddenly they stop caring. They reply slower. They show less interest. They seem distant. And you begin asking yourself a painful question. Was I only valued because of what I provided? If you have ever experienced this shift, you are not imagining it. Social psychology explains this pattern clearly. Some people do not connect through mutual respect. They connect through utility. And when the utility disappears, so does their interest. You may recognize the pattern. When you were available, people checked in. When you helped, people appreciated you. When you listened, people opened up. But the moment you pulled back, the warmth faded. This change feels personal. But it is structural. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Some relationships are built on usefulness, not connection. You are valued for what you do, not for who you are. And usefulness feels like closeness. Until it stops. Social psychology shows that humans categorize others unconsciously. Some people are placed in the category of companion. Others in the category of resource. Resources are contacted when needed. Companions are contacted because they are missed. If you notice, contact only appears when you are needed. That tells you where you were placed. This is why the shift feels so abrupt. When you stop being useful, you stop being activated in their mind. Not because you are unimportant, but because the relationship was conditional. You may hear things like, "You have changed. You are not the same anymore. You are distant now." But notice what is missing. They do not say, "I miss you. I want to understand you. I care how you feel." They say things that point back to what they lost. Social psychology calls this instrumental valuation. It means valuing people based on function. Emotional support. Problem solving. Availability. Validation. When those functions stop, the valuation drops. This is deeply destabilizing for people who give a lot. You begin questioning your worth. Was I only important when I was helping? Was I only loved when I was useful? These questions hurt. But they also reveal truth. Here is something most people never realize. Being useful creates the illusion of belonging. As long as you are needed, you feel included. But need is not the same as care. Need disappears when alternatives appear. Care does not. This is why people who value you only for usefulness rarely ask about your limits. They do not ask how you are doing. They ask what you can do. They do not notice exhaustion. They notice absence. You might notice this pattern clearly after you set boundaries. You stop overgiving. You stop fixing problems. You stop being constantly available. And suddenly, you feel invisible. That invisibility hurts. But psychology shows that it is not rejection. It is deactivation. You are no longer serving a role. So the connection goes quiet. This is also why people who value you for usefulness often resist your growth. When you change, they lose access. When you evolve, you stop fitting the role. And that creates friction. You may notice subtle guilt tactics. They remind you of what you used to do. They imply you owe them something. They frame your boundary as selfishness. This is not about closeness. It is about loss of benefit. Social psychology explains that people who rely on utility-based relationships often struggle with reciprocity. They receive easily. But they give selectively. They do not invest unless it benefits them. This is why when you need support, they are suddenly busy. When you stop providing, they stop reaching out. The imbalance becomes visible. You may feel tempted to return to usefulness. Just to restore connection. You help again. You show up again. You overextend again. And temporarily, the warmth returns. But nothing actually changes. Because the foundation remains conditional. The moment usefulness drops again, so will the connection. This is where quiet people and empathic people struggle most. You want to believe the connection is real. You want to believe you matter. So you keep proving value. But value does not need proof in healthy relationships. Here is the reframe that matters. If someone only values you when you are useful, they do not value you. They value access. This does not mean they are evil. It means they relate through extraction. Not mutual presence. And extraction-based relationships are fragile. You might notice another shift once you stop being useful. People project. They say you are cold. They say you are selfish. They say you have changed. These labels protect them from facing the truth. They lost benefit. Not connection. Social psychology is clear on this. When utility disappears, true connection is tested. And many relationships do not pass. This can feel lonely. You lose people. You lose roles. You lose familiar dynamics. But you gain clarity. You begin to notice who stays. The ones who ask how you are. The ones who respect your boundaries. The ones who value your presence, not your output. These relationships feel quieter. But they feel safe. Here is something important. You are not wrong for being useful. But you are not obligated to stay useful at the cost of yourself. Healthy relationships do not require constant proof of value. They allow rest. They allow limits. They allow change. If usefulness is the price of belonging, the cost is too high. You might fear that without usefulness, you will be alone. But psychology shows something else. When you stop performing, the wrong people leave. When you stop overgiving, the right ones appear. This transition is uncomfortable. But it is honest. You stop being a tool. And start being a person. Here is the most important truth. You are not here to earn worth through service. You are not here to justify your place by fixing others. You are allowed to exist. Without producing value. Final thought. If people only value you when you are useful, they were never seeing you fully. They were seeing what you provided. And when you step out of that role, you do not lose value. You lose illusion.